Bueno, quienes están en Zoom, gracias por esperar. Creo que ya podemos empezar porque el tiempo...
Vamos a ir iniciando.
Solo les recuerdo quienes están en sala, la interpretación es vía Zoom. Entonces, para que tengan sus audífonos. And you can scan the QR of the interpretation. Por favor, mantener en silencio los micrófonos de sus teléfonos. So please using mute the microphone because for the echo, el eco de la sala, el sonido está muy amplio. Y también mantener en silencio mientras las demás personas hablan para que la interpretación se escuche bien, porque todo lo que digamos en la sala se va a escuchar bien. Recordarles, tenemos algunos pasabocas, pero como ya vamos a empezar, ya quedaríamos para el final. Quienes faltan, que acaban de llegar, quienes faltan.
Here, darling. I have something new.
Entonces podemos tomar asiento.
Is everyone hearing okay in the Zoom? So welcome everybody to this side event. Thank you for coming. Just to let you know, we do have interpretation, simultaneous interpretation, Spanish and English. So if anybody needs interpretation, it is via the Zoom. So we need to use the Zoom link that was sent out with the publicity and headphones if you have. Most of the panel is going to be in English. So it's mostly for the people who don't speak English who needs translation to Spanish. There will be maybe one intervention in Spanish. But if you need that, just connect to the Zoom and use headphones. If you need headphones and you don't have any, we have a few spare headphones over there as well. So thank you very much for everybody for coming to this event. This side event is organized by Amua Frog. Ruth. Look it up. The side event is organized by the Association of Afro-Colombian Women in Colombia, FHM, which is the Institute for Peoples, Territories, and Pedagogies for Peace, TAI, which is the Teaching Artist Institute from the US, and the Biblioteca Cultural IFE, or the IFE Cultural Library in Cali, with support from Aldoma and Dalhousie universities as well. So the idea of this event is to bring together Black women who are working on reparations from our distinct spaces of struggle, to make concrete recommendations to the members of the Permanent Forum. And we have several members of the Permanent Forum here accompanying us. Thank you so much, June, Pastor. I think Anna is online, and Epsi, ex-member of the Permanent Forum as well. Thank you so much for joining. So hopefully we can make some really concrete recommendations for you, and we'd love to hear your feedback as well on what we're discussing today. We Black women have always been a fundamental part of reparations demands and movements. So as if some of you know Belinda Royal or Belinda Sutton, and she was also known, who in 1783 petitioned for and won pension from her former enslavers' estate in Massachusetts in the US for 50 years of unpaid labor. Queen Mother Moore as well, of course, founding mother of the contemporary reparations movement in the US, and many, many more women around the diaspora and on the continent who have struggled for reparations. Today, throughout Bel Ribeiro Adi, who is Labour MP for Parliament, Labour MP, Member of Parliament in Clapham and Brixton Hill in the UK, and convener of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Reparations for Africans. Barbara Reynolds, member of the Working Group of Experts on People of African Descent of the United Nations. Shari Garcia, Director of AMOAPRO, economist and political participation expert. And online we have Sister Kim Poole, Director of the Teaching Artists Institute in the US. Welcome, Sister Kim. Lovely to see your beautiful face on the screen. Mariama Williams, who will be joining us shortly from the Global Afro-Descendant Climate Justice Collaborative. Keisha St. Louis. Sorry, Keisha, I didn't write your full name. Are you there? Hi, Keisha St. Louis McBurn. Lovely to see you too and to meet you. In Canada, Ruth Ogbegwekun, I hope I said it right, focal point for the research and publications at the Pan-African Lawyers Union from Ghana, and Jasmine Mickens, reparations scholar and expert from Harvard University, who's also joining us online. Welcome, Jasmine, lovely to see you. So without further ado, we're going to get into the conversation. I'm not going to read their full biographies because I want them to present themselves and talk a bit about their work and what they do and why they have become and are reparations activists. So let's get into it, as they say. So the first question I'd like to pose to Barbara, if you're so first of all, I wanted to ask all of you actually, so we'll start with Barbara, is just tell us very briefly about your experience in the defense of reparations, and why did you become an advocate for reparations, and what inspires you in that journey? So 3 to 4 minutes on that first question. And we're going to be very strict with time today because we have a lot of voices to hear and not a lot of time.
Thank you, Esther. Hi, everybody. Apologies, difficult place to find. A couple of us were in Uruguay a couple of years ago, just before we came to Mexico. And someone in the room asked me what qualified me to be a member of the working group and to talk about anti-racism matters. And I responded to her, I have it in my blood, in my brain. And I grew up in a situation where my mother could tell us what happened a couple of generations ago, about people spitting in their faces and that kind of thing, you know, so you kind of grew up hearing it. But I think my transition came from working with UNICEF for many years when I breathed everything about children's rights and women's rights, okay? That was my day job, but it also was a passion. And of course, I spent 12 years in Africa in, if I get the order right, it's going to be Angola, Liberia, Zambia, Nigeria, and Botswana. But the crux of the matter came when I went home to Guyana. And when you live outside of your home country for 30 years and you go home to live,
Somebody open a microphone.
then your eyes pop open at what you see, because all of a sudden everything is in glorious technicolor. The first thing when I went home, somebody told me, just observe. The top 20 positions in the medical profession, you know, the regional medical officers in the hospitals, there are no people of African descent. There were 3 judges of African descent in the plethora of judges. And so you started to look at these things, and then I started to talk quietly with people about what's happening here, because that's not the Guyana I knew. And from that, I was deluged with data and started to work very quietly about these issues. Why quietly? Because in my country, there's a high cost when you step out. And so sometimes one has to make a choice about how loud one can be in terms of volume, as opposed to how effective one can be in terms of what one does. And I opted tactically for being quiet and working, as I still do, kind of pushing out ideas and backstopping people. In fact, it was with one of those groups that I was supporting that actually wrote in my name for the working group, because it's an umbrella organization, and every couple of weeks you're on the phone with them doing different things. My last point about this is, then I got a glimpse of the reality outside of tiny little Guyana about what was really happening, and began to look at it more intellectually, because you need to bring that lens, and realized that there was a lot that could be done. There was a lot that had been done, but there was a whole lot more that needed to be done. And that's why I speak out.
Thank you so much, Barbara. What concrete experience or strategies of reparations exist in your country or in your region as well? And what has been the role of women in those experiences? And also, just to bring it back to that context, how are these reparations addressing this current context in the world that we have? If
My
they are.
region is very complex. Just 2 days ago, we were talking about it. Suriname, Trinidad, and Guyana have a different trajectory, a different racial makeup. We're minorities. Black people are minorities in those countries. If not nominally, as in Suriname, certainly in terms economic, political power, visibility. I remember my brother trying a case. That's one of the reasons why I keep quiet. Where somebody had said that Black people didn't have the capacity to be in the diplomatic corps, right? And somebody filed suit, and that case went on for decades. Then you have the countries that are predominantly, in terms of population, of African descent, and so their struggles are different, their priorities are different. The common thread there would be that if you look across the region, issues around land rights, land use, land tenure, land ownership is a major issue, but also economic empowerment, because ironically, in many instances, even where people of African descent tilted towards the civil service after so-called emancipation, you find that the economic wealth is still very much in the hands of a few persons.
Yeah.
There's nothing strange about that. And so these things come together. But my bigger perspective has been looking across countries and looking at what has been done. And when we did our public session on reparatory justice, I was the one that kind of crafted the concept note based on everything. So let me run down the issues as I see it. The first big problem is representation. If we have people who speak, but what is their authority for speaking? How do they consult their constituents? And when they represent us, on whose authority are they representing us? And one of the things that I usually say, it makes no sense to me to go on CNN and BBC and talk about reparations when you're oppressing your own people at home. So that's a major issue. The second issue is around things that are on the books, what I call fixing the laws and the policies and programs. If you look at the template laid down by the British, for example, the police force where the British were initially was set out in Guyana, I'll talk about Guyana, to recapture runaway slaves. And whom do they use to recapture runaway slaves? Indigenous peoples. And so right away, they set us up to have this big divide, okay? You bring back the head of a runaway slave, you get this or that or the other. So all of these things. And the funny thing about it is, and this is the third area, that our history has been eclipsed. Our history, because we were traditionally oral societies, we talk about these things, we pass them down to our kids and grandkids, but they haven't been properly documented in detail. So you have the big picture, you know, when Columbus did what he did and, you know, the Pinta, the Nina, and the San, you know, you have all of those kind of grosso modo things, but the details and the way they have affected people. And one of the concerns that I had, particularly in Guyana, is that the older people are dying out. And so if we look at our country now, the people who fought for independence, every couple of months you hear about somebody else who has passed away. And we haven't had an opportunity to kind of capture in detail that history. And because there was a deliberate effort to erase that history, and ironically, a lot of what happened is sitting in libraries and museums and articles in London, Chatham House, and what have you, but it's not in Guyana. You know, recordings of the speeches of some of the first people who fought for independence in the 50s and early 60s, those are not in Guyana. So a lot is going into this in terms of how we conceptualize. Let me just say two other things, Esther. When we look at preparatory justice, or when we looked at it, we talked about righting egregious historical wrongs. One of the things you see is that it's the other side of the coin of contemporary issues when we talk about anti-Black racism. You could take it and, you know, impose on it the same template of civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights. You can look, as Pastor Murillo has been fighting for decades, to talk about what's at the individual level and what's at the collective level. And it's the same thing. And so one of the things that we kind of drifted towards is talking about the second decade as a template for still dealing with those contemporary issues, precisely because of some of the things you're seeing in the wonderful explanatory notes that came from the UK, the US, and the EU about why on this God's earth they would either abstain or vote against the resolution, is that back then, when we weren't at the table, when we weren't considered human, or, you know, we weren't at the table, but it's kind of like the worst circular argument that they're making, that we weren't here and it was legal and therefore we can't fight it. But they forget that at the same time when they benefited cumulatively and we were disadvantaged cumulatively. So this is not something that's going to be addressed just on moral grounds. There is a need for collaboration across global Africa to test in individual jurisdictions the legality of what we're fighting for. There's no super government. ICJ won't cut it, ICC can't. They've already said so. So that's one thing that is priority. Let me just.
Thank you. Well, the first question I have for you again is, tell us a little bit about your experience, how you became involved in the reparations agenda in the UK, and what motivates and inspires you to struggle for reparations.
Well, I wouldn't start off as believing that I was somebody who was privileged, but I think the one thing that I did get was a very good political education. And that was just because of programs in terms of people that were, I would say, came ahead of me. I think for me, it was a full circle moment. I used to work for another MP She's the first Black woman elected to Parliament, and she, in her time in Parliament, set up a scheme that would help support young Black people going to university. My area was one of those schemes. And when I went to university, my fees were paid for just because I came from that particular area and I'm someone from a lower socioeconomic background. And from being at that particular university, which is in the north of the country, which actually had a very, very racist political situation where there was a political party that was called the British National Party, who actually advocated for all-white Britain at the time. I got involved in political campaigning, and I was able to get involved in the National Union of Students, Black Students campaign. And when I got there, education, I would hear from leaders in the movement that had been involved in a variety of things. And one of the things that we did talk about and that was introduced to them was the idea of reparations. So being able to hear things like that in my late teens, early 20s, which is something I don't think I would have been able to, I hadn't had the opportunity to, that actually made a difference for me and actually broke it down, because at the university I was at, there were lots of people coming from all over the world, and they were talking about getting involved in international development and aid and the concept of aid. And there's nothing that's become more apparent to me over the years that aid has become an industry. It's become an industry for which you require supply and demand. And the demand is the continued poverty of peoples of African descent. And also something that I began to see in terms of the aid industry over the years is how they like to formulate Black women as a problem to be solved. All the time, just the rhetoric around it. A problem to be solved for which you could secure funding and then go out and do whatever it is that they do. But reparations always came at it from a slightly different angle. And that core aspect of listening to women like Esther Say, who is a reparationist in the UK, talking at that age, talking to me about young age, about how a fundamental part of the reparations movement was that we were the people that would dictate the terms. And that in itself is as much a part of anybody putting forward policies for reparations. If we were not doing it, then it wasn't true liberation. So this idea that Black women were a problem to be solved all the time was false, because actually Black women often have their own solution to these problems. So I think that's the kind of grounding that I came from. And then getting involved in other types of work in society of Black lawyers, and I've come to know a lot of fantastic lawyers. Some of them are here actually, and just being able to understand that legal grounding of the work as well, and then being elected to Parliament and being able to be in that space. I think one of the things that I didn't reckon, because I've never thought that I'd go on to do anything like be a politician. I wasn't even sure if I liked politicians much, but it was a privilege to me, thinking of a privilege I didn't have, to be able to chair the all-party parliamentary group for African reparations within Parliament. To be able to bring the reparations into that space, because so many people don't think that it's a legitimate argument, particularly successive governments that have gone before. Making out as if every single time that we raise it, we're doing something wrong, particularly because the British ended the slave trade. I mean, when people say that, I will often think to myself, how can we ever praise an arsonist for putting out the same fire? And then also this idea that being enslaved and colonized brought so many benefits. We even hear people having arguments like this today. Oh, what about all the education and civilization and sanitation? But if we understood our history in a way that it's sad, it's still not being taught, we would know that, for example, where my family are from, Ghana, that the British went there and found toilets in second-story buildings. All of these things that we're told that we got from being oppressed were already there. So I think it was that better understanding of history, and understand that when you do have any form of power, you should use it to champion liberation in a way that perhaps doesn't moving forward in the ways that people would say, but actually in some ways makes a difference. And what I would say of Black women doing it, and I really do worry, is that Black women have often been at the forefront of the reparations movement, and people want to kill them for it. They want to kill them. And in terms of the whole racial hierarchy that was set up to justify enslavement and colonialism, they are often at the bottom of the rung. Our African societies, and I'm not going to pretend like there was some sort of utopia and there was always equality and everything was right and it was wonderful. But this idea that women were less than is not something that you hear about traditionally. It wasn't the case. That sexism feels heavily colonial and heavily important because women were leaders often in these societies. So I do worry, and I think about all of the institutional failings that have come to the fore because of racialization and how they always end up impacting us the most. So understanding what the issues are and understanding their root really makes you realize that the only way for things to change is reparations, because it is literally the root of that word, to repair.
Absolutely, thank you, Belle. Black women being the target of violence for the activism work that we do, I think is absolutely true, and especially in the context in which we're fighting now, where the states are becoming even more oppressive through policing, through armed groups in many countries, which I think forces us to think as well about, what is the role of reparations in our struggles today. Can you talk a little bit about how you view, or how the all-party group is viewing reparations as a struggle in the UK? What issues are you putting on the table, and how is it responding to today's context?
Well, in the UK, we have a situation, as I expect we would do in many other countries, where even those of African descent, I think sometimes there is an idea that we would all understand these issues, and we don't. So we have an education gap amongst our own communities, but definitely amongst the wider country. So there's a process of actually educating people, and then there is the backlash to every single move forward we might make. So when people talk about reparations more in the news, there's a report out, all of a sudden there is a very right-wing backlash. And I'm thinking about the UN resolution recently. Now, we've heard recently that there's two political parties. One of them is the official opposition, and the other one polls very high. And so you think they're going to win. Their response to the resolution is to say that they should remove the visas for any country that has demanded reparations and not pay them, and not pay any aid, and not do not supply any aid. And it's been good to see some countries stand up and say, well, and actually just to think about it. I was speaking about this earlier. This power imbalance. We have often been made to think of peoples of African descent that we are less than. But when you think about it, if they were to enact those policies, who would it affect the most? Would it affect those countries who have been battered for so many years that they understand survival better than anyone else, or would it affect our country? And I realised the biggest losers would be us. So I think people need to understand the power structure, and it's about framing that power structure. And obviously, I make the moral argument, and the APPG makes the moral argument in Parliament as much as possible, because the moral argument is an important one. It is the right thing to do, and I think for any government, it should be right for you to take a moral stand on something that your country has done wrong. We can't go about the world preaching equality and justice whereas we don't actually implement it ourselves. But I think we have to think of an economic one. The world is changing. Britain left our largest trading partner, Brexit, which means I have to stand in a different queue when I come here, which is very annoying. And even in the concept of just our economy, in 30, 40 years, 50% of the world's youth are going to be on the African continent, and 1 in 4 people in my country is going to be over 65 years old. That changes things immensely. And that means that we do not have the luxury to hold on to this old idea that Rule Britannia rules the waves, of this very old idea. We have to do something different. And we often talk about security, and we need to get more weapons because we need to keep ourselves safe. But the safest thing we could do is make sure that we have friends. Guess who doesn't attack you? Your friends. You're not going to be friends with these countries moving forward, and the young people coming up who are going to be running them. If we don't start to treat them with some sort of equality, I don't want 50% of the world's youth and beyond to be looking at my country with resentment, just because they didn't have the courage to acknowledge what they did wrong and make some amends for it. So that's the context in which we look at it and explain to people that it couldn't possibly just be about money, because there is no amount of money that could ever recompense what was done. It is about a complete repair of the structures that govern our world and make it so that those that were formerly enslaved and colonized and everybody that looks like them is treated with such disrespect. It is at its root repair. So trying to make them understand that, trying to make them understand that in a few years, if they don't get on board, they can very easily be left behind.
Okay, thank you. And I know there's a couple of people here who really would like to respond to what we've heard, that have to leave very quickly. So I wanted to just open for like 5 minutes to hear a couple of reactions before those that have to leave need to leave, and then we'll continue back with our panelists. So I know Dr. Pastor from the Permanent Forum would like to have a quick reaction to what's already been said before he leaves, and I think I saw another one there. Go ahead, Pastor.
Bueno, buenas tardes.
So, okay, so anyone who needs translation would need to connect to the Zoom, which is in the link that we sent around, and with the headphones. So,
No me puedes ayudar, solo voy a hablar un minuto.
okay, he's asking me
¿Ok?
to translate for him. Thanks, Pastor.
Bueno, lo primero es felicito este espacio.
So we just wanted to say congratulations for this space.
Infelizmente tengo que retirarme,
Ok.
pero no quería perder la oportunidad para decir unas pocas palabras.
Okay, so unfortunately I have to leave, but I didn't want to lose the opportunity just to say a few words. But
En particular, hacerles una invitación a que, con miras a la próxima sesión del foro en África, de Addis Abeba, que creo que es una oportunidad excepcional para abordar la agenda afrodescendiente.
So first of all, invite everybody to take part in the next session of the Permanent Forum, which will be in Addis in Ethiopia.
Sin duda, la cuestión de la reparación es el tema que nos conecta,
And the issue of reparations will be an issue that connects us.
pero creo que tenemos un desafío. Hoy felizmente está aquí nuestra colega del foro, Jung, que es la delegada del foro ante el Comité de Reparaciones de la Unión Africana.
And happily June, who's a member of the Permanent Forum, is also part of the committee.
Y tenemos la feliz coincidencia de contar con Esi y también con Yasmín en este espacio.
And also we have Epsi and Jasmine in this space.
En concreto, lo que creo yo es que hay un desafío de preparar la agenda para el diálogo sobre reparaciones con África
Okay.
y prepararlo de manera muy oportuna para que podamos tener una hoja de ruta
Okay.
que nos permita dar el salto.
So the challenge we have is to really prepare a concrete route or agenda for reparations in dialogue and in articulation with Africa, and prepare that very well before we come together in.
Esa es la invitación. Gracias.
Thank you. Epsi, okay.
Muy buenas noches. Bueno, tardes en realidad. El tema es que a esta hora en mi país es de noche siempre.
Right, right. At this time, cierto que Colombia también.
Siempre es de noche.
At this time in my country, at this time at 7:30, it's always dark at night.
Entonces, por eso
I say good night.
me llama. Quería decir tres cosas. Primero, felicitar a Moafro. Yo creo que sí se está grabando. Ok. Primero, felicitar a Moafro por la iniciativa. Gracias, Chari, por hacer posible un debate sobre reparaciones y las mujeres. Eso me parece que Voy a hablar en femenino, espero que se sientan incluidos. Muchas veces hemos tenido que escuchar el masculino como parte del lenguaje. Nosotras tenemos un gran desafío ahora. Y el gran desafío es que después de la resolución que Ghana lideró y que aprobó la mayoría de estados en Naciones Unidas, se abre una puerta inmensa que no podemos desaprovechar. Y es que las reparaciones, sin la mirada de las mujeres, van a reproducir una exclusión histórica que hemos tenido las mujeres africanas y afrodescendientes. No es posible hablar de agenda de reparaciones sin las mujeres, pero además sin el rol histórico que tuvieron las mujeres africanas en la esclavitud y todas las consecuencias que pasaron por los cuerpos de las mujeres y que hoy tienen consecuencias en la vida cotidiana de millones de mujeres africanas y afrodescendientes. De manera que quisiera por eso aprovechar que está June Summer. Ella es una experta en materia de reparaciones, y Bárbara, que realmente tiene un rol muy importante en los mecanismos que nos tienen que permitir levantar las voces de las mujeres. Termino diciendo que nosotras recientemente constituimos una alianza entre mujeres africanas y mujeres afrodescendientes, que yo espero que las mujeres que estén en este panel se puedan sumar a esa maravillosa iniciativa, porque lo que pretendemos es que la voz de las mujeres africanas y afrodescendientes se escuche muy fuerte. Y también aprovechar para decir que hicimos un reconocimiento a June Summer en esta actividad por el rol que ha tenido en el liderazgo en el Caribe, pero también en la agenda de las reparaciones. Muchas gracias, June, por lo que usted... del próximo decenio solo será posible si nosotras no solamente colocamos nuestras perspectivas de todos los temas, sino que si nosotras no estamos como centrales en todo lo que tiene que ver el trauma intergeneracional que marca el cuerpo de las mujeres, en todo lo que tiene que ver con la restitución, con las reparaciones económicas y con el rol de liderazgo de las mujeres para los próximos 10 años. Así que muchas gracias, Chari, muchas gracias a Moafro, muchas gracias a las panelistas que nos están dando una lección de reparaciones, y quiero saludar en especial a Jasmine, que ha sido una aliada muy importante desde donde está para llevar la agenda de las mujeres y la agenda de las reparaciones. Gracias.
Translation for that?
I did have.
Yeah, nobody missed it that needed it? Because I can give a summary if you need it. But it will be a summary. Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you miss it? Yeah. Okay, so I'll just go very quickly. I tried. Okay, so EPSI said, first of all, congratulations to Amoafro for bringing this event on reparations to bring together, so the recent adoption of the resolution on crimes against humanity is really, which was approved by the majority of states, is really key for the agenda of reparations. And without women at the forefront or within the agenda on reparations, we will only be reproducing the same exclusion that African and Black women have faced historically. So the historic role of women or Black women and African women in enslavement, in which their bodies were sites of violence, and those ongoing and lasting harms need to be addressed through processes of reparations. She made a special mention to June and to Barbara as experts in reparations and key roles in the mechanisms that they are part of. And thirdly, she said we need to have an alliance between Afro-descendant and African women on the continent. and to bring together this initiative, which brings together the voices of Black women. Another recognition for June for her role of leadership, not only in the Caribbean, but also in the international agenda for reparations. This is also in the next decade, in the second decade, again, there's an opportunity to bring forward the discussion of reparations and address intergenerational harms and restitution, and then another recognition for the important role that the women here are playing, including Jasmine on the screen and others.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Epsi. So the next question that I have is for my sister Shari. Shari, tell us a little bit about your experience and role and process in reparations and how you began to work on reparations in your country and in your community.
Ok, primero quiero darles las gracias por aceptar esta invitación a las panelistas y muchísimas gracias. Y a quienes nos están acompañando aquí y virtual, muchas gracias. Este es un esfuerzo entre varias organizaciones, AMUAFRO, el IPTP, IFE, Biblioteca Cultural IFE, Universidad de Dalhousie, bueno, y otras, Teaching Artists Institute, y otras organizaciones y entidades que se suman. Sabemos que poder lograr este tipo de espacios y diálogos requieren de una articulación importante. Muchísimas gracias, doña Epsi, por estar aquí, doctor Sumer, Bárbara, por supuesto, don Pastor, doña Ana Macallan, que está también conectada. Y que para responder un poco la pregunta, digamos que yo siempre digo, yo soy hija del movimiento afro de Colombia. Y el movimiento afro de Colombia, si bien no se ha entendido, no se entendió anteriormente como acciones o procesos de reparación, sabemos que lo que se viene haciendo en Colombia tiene que ver con realizar reparaciones, así tengan otro nombre. En el caso de AMOAFRO, nosotras venimos ya hace 30 años.
I just want to check everyone's hearing the interpretation because okay, great.
AMOAFRO venimos hace 30 años ya que fue constituida legalmente en Colombia, trabajando por y con las mujeres afrodescendientes y desde las mujeres afrodescendientes. Y solo ese hecho, como lo dijo Epsi, ya tiene una base de reparación, porque se empieza a reparar también desde los cuerpos, desde la salud reproductiva, derechos reproductivos, derechos sexuales y reproductivos, derechos de la tierra y los derechos a la participación política y a los espacios de decisión. Eso hemos venido haciendo desde AMOAFRO. Y bueno, actualmente con estas articulaciones hemos logrado fortalecer un trabajo panafricanista muy importante, que es lo que nos tiene aquí y cómo desde esas articulaciones hemos logrado incidir en espacios internacionales como el foro, pero también a nivel nacional. A nivel nacional, en Colombia hemos logrado también hacer una incidencia importante con algunas mujeres congresistas que han llegado a estos espacios de decisión para poner sobre la mesa de estos espacios donde además se decide en términos económicos las acciones en pro de la población afrodescendiente, poner sobre la mesa las demandas y necesidades de los territorios desde las mujeres afrodescendientes. Y eso nosotros lo llamamos reparación. Si bien sabemos que CARICOM tiene ya un avance mucho más institucional en términos de reparación, desde la sociedad civil es lo que hemos venido haciendo desde hace mucho tiempo, que se ha visto materializado más en las agendas sociales que institucionales, y eso es importante mencionarlo. Precisamente hoy tuvimos otro evento paralelo con Brasil, donde estábamos hablando de qué se debería hacer desde la institucionalidad Y creo que, bueno, Brasil es un gran ejemplo, digamos, que ha avanzado bastante en América Latina. Y en Colombia, pues actualmente lo que se logró desde la voluntad política de la administración actual, que ya está por terminar, y que no sabemos qué va a pasar una vez termine, ¿no? Ya el solo hecho de no tener una representación de una mujer que se ve como nosotras en estos espacios, eso nos genera un trabajo doble, o empezar de nuevo más bien, a ver cómo reparar precisamente la representación política de las mujeres afrodescendientes en el país. Y que bueno, por supuesto, varias de las mujeres aquí presentes pues han marcado el camino, y esto yo siempre lo digo, el dar gracias a quienes nos han abierto el camino, y que las voces de las mujeres negras sigan al frente, pero más allá del discurso, en la acción, ¿cierto? Porque finalmente las mujeres damos vida y movemos vida. Así que bueno, eso lo dejo por ahí. Gracias.
Take the conversation to the virtual platform. Up there, can you hear us online? I would like to invite Sister Kim Poole to the table. Kim, can you hear us? Great. Okay. So Kim, I would love to ask you the same question as well. Okay. So I think Kim has to have her microphone closed while we're talking.
Hopefully that helps.
Yes. Okay, great. So Kim, again, please tell us a bit about your experience and how you came to working on reparations during your own path and journey in arts and culture.
Absolutely. I didn't know I was a reparationist. I am an artist, and in the spirit of artistry and everything I've learned from the spirit workers and the artists that have raised me, that have taught me and trained me, I have to first bring rhythm into this space. I have to first acknowledge my ancestors. I have to first make sure that we give thanks for this moment. We have to remember that reparations is not just what we receive, but it's how. And coming into this space, I'm reminded of the necessity for artists and culture workers and spirit workers and growers to be a part of the dialogue, shaping policy in real time. In 2025, we all know that the African Union acknowledged finally the case for reparations, and they said that the entire year would be dedicated to that. I've been working on the periphery of the African Union through ECOSOC meetings, even in my own city since 2015, understanding that my own self-repair would begin with my reconnection to African language and how African language defines reality. The same way that creation and art does, the words that we speak, the vibration, the very vibration of what we say. And so in my attempt to work within the space, acknowledging and honoring the African Union's year of reparatory justice, I began self-repair. Our organization, the Teaching Artists Institute, we work in 9 countries, 7 of which are on the continent of Africa. We never called it reparations to create space for intergenerational dialogue. We never called it reparations to work as a collective, as a cooperative, to share our resources, our building of sovereignty and autonomy. We didn't use this language. However, it's time that we all use this language and be on one accord from the grassroots to the grass tops. And so in my own self-repair, I understood the necessity of a spiritual renaissance. Throughout 2025, all of the work we did to connect artists and art culture to sustainable development, the work that we're continually engaged in as an organization anyway, we began to see through the lens of reparations and repair. We take journeys, birthright journeys for young people from the undergraduate level and graduate level in college down to the babies that are in elementary school through our AS for Africa program. We've been doing that for a decade. We took young people last year during the African Union Year of Reparations, and I saw that journey through different eyes. I began to filter all of the programs that we do within the Teaching Artists Institute, connecting global African people, bringing artists to decision-making tables, ensuring intergenerational dialogue was necessary, working cooperatively to own and manage our infrastructure as global African people. I began last year to see that through the lens of reparations, and I realized there is no separation. What was missing from the language when I had these conversations at the grassroots level with the mamas under baobab trees, when I had this conversation with artists that have large scale influence, is what we have now contributed to the dialogue: regeneration. We learned, like children, it is the learner that inherits the future. In a world where everybody knows everything and we have information at our fingertips, it is the learner that inherits the future. The learned usually find themselves equipped for a world that no longer exists. And so I appreciated the fact that our organization, our motto is that culture is the new currency. And we've been developing our work in a silo, working grassroots and grass tops, and not necessarily connected directly to the reparations dialogue as I have always known it to be advocated by my elders, like Dr. Ron Daniels with the Institute of the Black World, like Dr. Beryl Beekman, and like David Horn. These are the elders that when I thought about what is reparations, I said, oh, that's that thing they do in policy discussions. That's what they do at the United Nations. Last year, when the African Union declared it as the official year, I began to see it from the perspective of personhood. I began to analyze it like a child with a childlike mind. And if you can't explain it to the children, it doesn't make sense anyway. It's not relevant. And so I began to ask myself, why is this still necessary now? Not only to think historically, to date every conversation we have as a people 600 years back, to understand that the very infrastructure in which we live, the architecture that shapes our world, is based on this great disruption, this great African apocalypse and way of life. But what does that mean for our abundant future? And I realized that the young people that I work with, trying to teach them about reparations and repair, I had to bring in regeneration. I had to tell them what this means for what is next. Reparations is a world remaking exercise. In the Teaching Artists Institute, we're already busy remaking that world. But now, at this time in history, it's time for us to create language for different populations, those that are outside of the policy space. How do they now begin to talk about reparations? Artists and culture workers, growers, we want those in the farm fields, planting seeds, to begin to think, what does reparation mean to me? We want a mother. We're talking about Black women today. When she's holding a child in her womb, the access that she has to healthcare, the homeostasis, her ability to stay calm and not fear for the life of her child. In my place where I live in Baltimore, women are still afraid for their children, even before they are born. And that fear, it is in the physical, the makeup of the child. Even before they're born, they're anxious. And how is that woman, her ability to feel safe, how is that reparations? How is it that self-repair begins to influence policy level discussions? Our work in the Teaching Artists Institute last year, when the African Union decided that it was the year of reparatory justice for those on the continent and those in the diaspora, our work that has continued for a decade, we began to use that lens. We, out of that work, created the Cultural Reparations Framework. The Cultural Reparations Framework gives us language for populations that aren't at decision-making tables for policy. They aren't only talking about the economic, what we are owed, but they're saying, we will get our reparations. As an African futurist, we understand that. the question is, when we get them, how will we manage them? We understand that we will win. At every table that needs to be repaired, the capitalistic infrastructure that governs us, it will implode. As a matter of fact, it has already begun its collapse and demise, the rise and decline of every civilization. But are global African people ready to take their role in solidarity with our brown brothers and sisters, to sit at decision-making tables, to use the best practices of what it means to be human, to remake the world? And the question is, when do we begin that preparation? With the Teaching Artists Institute, we say that preparation begins now. It begins right now. In fact, it has already begun. We develop cooperative repair. What does it mean for us to rethink how we manage the resources that are due to us? Last year, when the African Union decided it was the year of reparations for the diaspora and the continent, it forced us to go and connect to our brothers and sisters on the continent to say, where are you in the narrative? Why have they, with intention, always divided our voices and our stories? How can we begin the bridge of reconnecting in our dialogue and in our efforts in real time? I think that showing up to this table as a culture worker with intention is important, because it reminds us that the systems that are representing us, we are a part of them. They are not separate from us. Last month, we went to Colombia and we spoke at the Caribbean community, or the community of Latin American and Caribbean states, CLAC Africa. And in history, for the first time, nation states with intention, they partnered to talk about what does trade look like in real time when we trade in our own currencies and when we connect with each other. What does it look like with we making connections to each other in real time? And at that table, I felt homeless. And so I'm going to pass it back to you. But before I leave, I want to say that I felt homeless because I still have a US passport. And though I watch the global South to South connections manifest in real time, I want to always make sure that even though I'm here at this table speaking on behalf of global African people, advocating for global African women, for all artists, wherever we may be, in our collective sovereignty, I'm always here to remind you all that a part of the reparation that we owe ourselves, a part of the repair, is that you all make space for us that are living in the Pharaoh's house. We can't afford to burn the house down. We still live inside. So it's important that as you think about global South to South sovereignty, that you remember those of us that have US passports without an alternative. We don't have another passport to switch at the border in Jamaica or a Caribbean CARICOM country. We don't have a microphone. And so we depend on you to help us have voice. The cultural reparations talks about going from justice to joy. And that joy, it is based in our ability to have voice, to believe in our global African membership and belonging, to manage collectively our resources and feel inherently abundant. We feel an inherent sense of lack. I know that if we receive our compensation, which, make no mistake, cultural reparations and our cultural reparations framework does not excuse the fact that institutions have to be held accountable in our current structure. But what it does is it recognizes that there is more to the story. What is next happens now. That's how I came to this conversation. I hope I'll have an opportunity to talk about more about what we want to continue to bring to the dialogue as artists and culture workers.
Pieces to this conversation that I think we're gonna revisit when we come back, when we come down to the recommendations at the end, and we'd love to hear at the point on the recommendations what you think is coming next. So I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that you said there. This idea of the reconnection with Africa, and we were speaking about this a lot in the CELAC Africa event in Colombia, the reencuentro, as we call it in Colombia, the re-meeting with Africa is key and central to our process of reparation and our processes of self-repair, as Kim just said. And also I wanted to highlight the cultural reparations framework that TAI has been working on, which helps us to think beyond the 5-point restitution, compensation, rehabilitation, satisfaction, and guarantees of non-repetition to bringing in the cultural element to complement that already existing framework that was created outside of our struggles, and it speaks to our struggle, but we can bring our own lens and vision and language to what reparations looks like. Also, the idea of cooperative repair and moving from justice to joy. So thank you, Kim, for bringing all of these new wonderful concepts to the conversation. I would like to move next to Keisha. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Keisha, so thank you so much for being here. I have 2 questions again, but I would like just, first of all, just tell us a little bit about who you are and what has been your journey and process and how you came to work on reparations.
Beautiful. Thank you, Esther and the team, for the invitation to join you all today as we work to center the experiences of Black women in our ongoing struggle for reparations. As previously mentioned, my name is Keisha St. Louis McBurney. I'm an urban planner by training, a researcher and an organizer, calling in today from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Toronto is located on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. I am a Black Canadian of Trinidadian and Grenadian descent whose family moved to Canada in the 1960s as a part of the West Indian domestic scheme. Over the course of my career, I've been committed to understanding and co-creating solutions that address racial, socioeconomic, and spatial inequities that persist across Black Canadian communities. This includes today providing planning capacity and to support to Canada's growing movement of Black-led and serving community land trusts who are focused on achieving land and housing justice through collective and cooperative economics. And in doing this work, I've been really confronted with the fact that I was not exposed to a version of Canadian history within the formal Canadian education system that accurately or proportionately reflected the experiences of Black people of African descent on these lands, including our own relationship to the transatlantic slave trade. So in introducing myself, I also just want to briefly introduce someone by the name of Marie Joseph Angelique. Angelique was born in Madeira, Portugal in 1705. She was an enslaved Black woman purchased at the age of 20, who was tragically shipped to North America, first to New England and then to Montreal, Canada. She was dehumanized, propertized. Her body and her name were not her own. She was sold, resold, named, renamed, and demanded her freedom. In doing so, she was denied. She fled with her lover and set her bedroom aflame in protest on her way out. On April 10th, 1734, the story goes that the fire spread across Montreal's merchant quarters, burning 67 buildings to the ground. On the 11th, she was arrested and charged with arson. On June 21st, 1734, she was hung, displayed, and placed on a pyre to burn. She was 29 years old. I'm 29 years old. Angelique was one of approximately 4,000 people of African descent who were enslaved here in Canada before the abolition of slavery in 1834, 100 years following her death. Last month, the Canadian government abstained from the General Assembly resolution on the classification of slavery of Africans and racialized slavery of Africans as the most serious crime against humanity, and so our struggle continues here in Canada today. As Black women have been organizing for reparations in Canada, particularly with really strong force in Atlantic Canada, with a clear focus on the experiences of folks of African Nova Scotian descent as a light force for other Black communities across Canada by leaders such as Dr. Lynn Jones, Delvina Bernard, Carol Ann Wright. It's been an honor to be a part of a new generation of young Black women who are coming to this work as practitioners, organizers, and other folks who are implicated in the process of inflicting the slave trade and also continued colonization and neo-colonization across the world. And so I'm a professional urban planner, and I'm often acting on behalf of the state in a discipline that has been central to genocide, violent land dispossession, and the continued entrenchment of sociospatial inequities for people of African descent. And this includes historic land-based exclusion that was previously mentioned of early Black settlers, as well as contemporary removals as a result of forces such as gentrification, displacement, and infrastructure development. And so I think one of the key issues here in Canada in, dealing with the question of reparations is that we're still trying to unpack and reframe this myth of Canadian multiculturalism, right? Canada's position nationally and globally in the world as this beacon for hope around human rights, being inclusive, being equitable, and yet we do not, at a basic level, tell an accurate history of our people here of African descent and why reparations is owed here in our context as well. And I think a lot of that ends up being conflated with issues of diversity, equity, inclusion, which really misses the mark and just demonstrates a lack of understanding when we're talking about reparations, that we're talking about those 5 requirements of cessation, restitution, compensation, satisfaction, and rehabilitation, and that the things that we want invested in and the systems that we want change have to deal specifically with these criteria. And I know that your question is related to land for me, Esther, and I just want to talk a little bit more about the experience of African Nova Scotian communities who are at the forefront of this change, including the community of Upper Hammonds Plains, which is one of 52 historic African Nova Scotian communities out in Halifax. The community was established in 1815 by Black refugees who migrated from Virginia, who fought in the War of 1812 as free Black people, as well as former Black slaves who were offered emancipation in what we now know today as Canada for their military service in the war on behalf of the British Empire. And so while the government of Nova Scotia provided white settlers with 100 acres or more of fertile land, Black families were segregated, and Upper Hammonds Plains was given 10 acres and infertile soil. White settlers also received deeds for their land. Black settlers were not given legal title to their land, and instead were given tickets of location and licenses of occupation. And so without legal title of land, Black settlers could not sell or mortgage their property or legally pass it down to their descendants upon their death. And so today we're continuing to wrestle with both this land and systemic wealth gap for people of African descent in Canada, which has been further compounded over the last 200 years as a result of racist land value appraisals, issues of water contamination, environmental racism, expropriation for municipal infrastructure that served, the white city, but bypassed African Nova Scotian communities, legal battles, and more recently with new speculative real estate development in communities that were once considered undesirable, but certainly are now experiencing new forces under racial capitalism and just a broader global financial system focused on the financialization of land and housing. And so as we look ahead, it's been really exciting to be a part of, a part of the Community Land Trust movement here in Canada, which is decades behind other folks organizing in the US, as well as other parts around the world. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat. Apologies, I can absolutely slow down. Other folks around the world of African descent who are dealing with land-based issues. In Canada, it's been really exciting to work with the folks out in Vancouver with the Hogan's Alley Society, who are trying to work directly with the city of Vancouver in a reparative action, which would give them back their historic land to redevelop what is now currently occupied by 2 viaducts, 2 highways, to become the first Black-led, Afrocentric, and futuristic development for Vancouver's Black population. Similarly, here in Toronto, it's been a pleasure to work with the folks with the Little Jamaica Community Land Trust, who, like many other African diasporic enclaves around the world, are facing new issues with transit-oriented development and pressure. And lastly, it's been really exciting to be closely supporting the new work of the Upper Hammonds Plains Community Land Trust, who has broken ground on a new 136-unit nonprofit affordable housing cooperative project for Black Canadians, which received $61 million in funding support from our federal government. And so there are small wins that we're seeing at the community level. There have also been a number of policy improvements that we're seeing as different municipal governments and provincial governments are recognizing cultural redress, as well as the need for economic reparations, particularly in the Nova Scotia context. This work has been, I would say, pretty disparate and unconnected across the country for a very long time, but is finally, I would say, coalescing in this moment as these nonprofit CLT organizations are bringing this conversation back up with the new generations of folks in leadership positions. And there's a real need for us to continue to connect with other African diasporic organizations and Black diasporic organizations around the world, so that there is understanding that despite working in this very white supremacist country, this work is possible and it's being done in other countries. And so it's been a pleasure to listen to you all today and to participate in this conversation.
And I think there's a lot of conversation that can be had between Canada and Colombia, which at the Institute of Pueblos, Territorios and Peace, we're already having those conversations because of the experiences that we have around land rights, particularly collective land rights in the case of Colombia, and what that means for reparations, but what it also means for autonomy and self-governance for Black peoples in territories. So I think we could think about some follow-up conversations between Colombia and Canada around land. Thank you so much, Keisha. Now I know we have a couple more speakers, but there are some other people who are also going to have to leave. So I wanted to open the floor again very quickly to a couple of interventions from June and from Isabel. Do you have to go? Okay, for reactions, please, on what we've heard so far around these visions of reparations from Black women.
Thank you very much. I've spoken so much for today already. I'm exhausted. But it's very clear from everybody who has spoken that reparations for women of African descent has to be personal journey. Must be something personal to you. For me, I was 9 years old when my mother, who was East Indian, took me to a fair by the church, and she was carrying my niece, who was very small at the time, but my niece is extremely dark because my grandmother was from southern India. My niece did not get her darkness from Africa, and she got it from southern India. And we went to this fair, and an Indian lady came up to my mother and said, "What a pretty Black child." And my mother responded, "Why did you say she was a pretty Black child? Why didn't you say she was a pretty child? Aren't Black people pretty too?" That was the first experience. So when I grew up a little older, I asked her why she made that statement. And she said to me, "Because Indian people think that Black people are not pretty." Remembering, of course, that my mother chose that I should be Black. True, okay? My mother chose that I should be Black because my father is a Black man. And she then said to me something that has never left me. She said, "Indian people think that they are not Black, but they are Black also." Okay, so that was my first experience with it. And my second experience was even more physical because it was at university when Sir Hilary Beckles was my lecturer. And he made a statement, only a Black woman could reproduce an enslaved person. And it hit me and the tears poured down my face. It was a physical reaction. And I never cried after that as a historian, because you come up against material that could make you scream. But I decided instead that I was going to fight instead of cry. And so it becomes a very personal thing to you as an individual. And so you come across a number of things that you have to speak about in reproductive justice, and one we never talk about is colorism. We never talk about colorism, the fact that some of us are even more privileged because of the color of our skin. In the French territories, there were 164 shades of that each gave you a different level of access. Then we don't talk about patriarchy enough when we talk about it. We learned patriarchy from white men. And so it is a challenge for us because we have to realize that we are fighting against white men who have then made white women complicit. Because they told us during enslavement that we were the physical ones with the robust hips, the childbearing hips, and the white women with the more gentle, ladylike ones. So if we were the physical ones also, they were the more cerebral ones. So the white women are brighter than us. You know that. So we have to talk about all of these dynamics when we speak about it. And we have to talk about our internal healing. Because if we don't deal with this, we will be traumatized. We will be traumatized and we'll continue to be traumatized. And so a lot of our reparations must also look at internal healing. I think that is essential. Then all of the other things we spoke about, partnerships with the continent. How we help the continent to heal, because they have taken a long time to get to this space where they have established a decade, a year, a decade, a committee to look at reparations and the framework that they're going to use and do it with the diaspora, because I represent the 6th region on that committee. So it has taken a long time, and today I'm sorry, but I have to go back to the day when I hear that we continue to be complicit without understanding, So it tells me that we have a lot of education to do, and we have to do that education. We cannot let the state hijack reparations. We have to do reparations to the people.
Yes.
And it's one of the things I'm working on right now. I'm trying to develop a framework for the inclusion of civil society in the reparative justice movement, and not just the inclusion, but a kind of taking over of the movement, because it was part of how we repaired ourselves before, as individuals and as collective, in community, etc. So how do we do that? And that's where the cultural thing you were speaking about comes in. And that is only one aspect of it. There are many other aspects that we can add to the already extensive definition of reparation. So all of these things are important. We fight for all of them every day as a permanent forum. And when we brought it forward the first time after our first meeting, we got a lot of pushback, to the point where now the permanent forum is called a racist organization, and the United States has withdrawn support for the permanent forum. So we know we're doing something right.
Yes.
We know we're doing something right. We're not afraid. We know that the fight continues, and it is good that women realize. It was one of the first calls I made for women to be part of this movement. Women have always been at the forefront of the reparative justice movement. We heard about one enslaved woman. I just heard about another one when I went to launch the second decade in the Bahamas, named Kate Moss, of all the names. Kate Moss was a woman who worked in the house. And one day she was raped by the master, and he tore her clothes. She was a seamstress. He tore her clothes, and his wife, Ellen, said to her, "Sew your clothes." And she said, "Me tear it, me sew it." You know, and they beat her and put pepper in the wounds and hung her upside down, and she died. She was a young woman in the Bahamas. So a lot of the violence you see against women, we were equal under the whip. You always have to remember that. If we were equal under the whip, we are, as we always say, and Kanachi said today, we are the womb of capitalism. And so we have to always fight for ourselves. Nobody's going to fight for us. Nobody's going to fight for us. So I'm very happy to see all of you here. And of course, you know that I will help you in the fight. At the forefront. So thank you so much. I really have to go. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, thank you.
So, but I needed to come and support you.
Thank you. Thank speakers to speak, then we don't want to not hear them before we end. If anyone's feeling tired, we have food and snacks outside as well for anyone that didn't have. Please feel free to grab something to keep the energy levels going. And also we will be giving out some tasters of biche, which is a traditional drink, Afro-Colombian drink from Colombia. So anybody who would like to try some biche or knows biche and would like to have some biche, we're going to put it outside as well, and feel free to have a little bit of that as well. So hang on, because this conversation is going really well and I'm very excited. But we're going to give some time just to listen to the last few speakers that are here.
Thank
you, June.
Thank you.
Okay,
This is great.
thank you so much. So I had Isabel ask for the floor and then,
Actually,
okay.
can you translate? Is there?
Yeah, let's see.
Can you translate?
Yes, I will see.
Spanish?
I'm telling you.
Well, we have translation.
Yes.
Yes. So if anyone who needs translation to English, please connect. So,
Hablo alto. Muchas gracias por este evento, muchas gracias por el trabajo que hacéis. Ya conocí el trabajo de Amuacro porque la última vez que estuve en Colombia, pues Amuacro y especialmente Charlie fue la persona que me acompañó. Entonces, no solo conocí el trabajo de Amuafro, sino de otras organizaciones de la en Palenque. Y creo que mucho del trabajo que estaban haciendo era trabajo de reparaciones, pero quizás no estaba identificado así en ese momento, ¿no? Y bueno, pues me encanta también ver a mi compañera, la doctora Reynolds, en el panel, que fue el panel representado por el grupo de trabajo. Y mi reflexión, yo tengo una reflexión desde... Es más bien un comentario desde ayer fue el primer día del foro, desde que yo ayer entré en la sala del foro y hasta que nos subió la doctora Galen en el panel de presentación, solo había hombres. Y la conversación, tanto de ayer como hoy, estuvo muy focalizada en las reparaciones. Pero tengo una pregunta y es... para llamar un poco a la reflexión, ¿no? Las mujeres afrodescendientes, hablamos de justicia reparadora, estamos liderando movimientos sociales, estamos liderando grupos de trabajo en las Naciones Unidas, estamos en la política, pero ¿estamos sosteniendo la lucha por las reparaciones o estamos controlando? Para mí eso es importante porque veo que estamos en todos los espacios, pero no estamos en las negociaciones internacionales, no estamos liderando las comisiones de reparación, no estamos controlando los fondos de reparaciones y tampoco creo que estemos marcando las estrategias globales sobre las reparaciones. Estamos incluidas en la conversación, como lo estamos haciendo ahora, pero no estamos controlando, ¿no? Todo lo que puede llegar a generar un cambio real. La conversación, la reflexión que tuve ayer, y creo que a la hora de plantearnos trabajar el tema de las reparaciones, no tenemos que plantearnos como siempre seguir sosteniendo la lucha antirracista, seguir sosteniendo los movimientos sociales, etcétera, sino tenemos que ir más allá y empezar a cambiar también la narrativa, y somos las que tenemos que controlar, ¿no? Tenemos que controlar esos espacios también, porque al final sí estamos incluidas y está muy normalizado que haya una perspectiva de género y que estemos en todos los espacios, pero al final la inclusión no es suficiente, tenemos que controlar esos espacios, y esa es la reflexión que quería hacer antes de irme, y muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Isabel. Muchas gracias. para la palabra, sí, porque quiero dar la palabra a Jasmine, que está esperando con mucha paciencia en la pantalla. Sheila, don't worry, I'm going to be her. Yeah. Que está esperando virtualmente para que haga su intervención también. Jasmine, muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much for waiting and for being online with us and joining us today. Jasmine, I'm going to put your question together. So what we wanted to ask you, first of all, tell us a bit about your journey in the reparations movement. We know we have you here in representation as a scholar at Harvard, but we know very well your work previously at Open Society and like other spaces as well. So tell us a bit about that journey, but then also we'd love to hear about your role within the adoption of the General Assembly resolution. And what does that adoption mean in terms of the global reparations agenda?
Yes. So first of all, thank you so much for putting this event together. Shadi, la Asociación de las Mujeres Afrocolombianas, I really appreciate that you have taken the time to elevate the engine behind the reparations work, which is Black women. Somebody pointed out earlier that if you look at all the pictures and you look at all the titles, most of the time it's not Black women who is visible. And I appreciate that one of the first things you said, Esther, was you acknowledged our ancestor, Belinda Sutton. Thank you for evoking her spirit in the room. It reminds us that the work didn't start with me or any of us in the room, and it doesn't finish with any of us in the room, but that we are simply building on the work of our ancestors. So I am Jasmine Mickens, and I am a research fellow, a funder, and a transnational reparations strategist. And my work began in two spaces. One, it began in grad school in 2018. I was doing research on truth commissions, and I had a really great professor who helped me understand the politics of how they get structured, how they get funded, and what their limitations are. And one of the things that was abundantly clear to me was that truth commissions are not enough. And reparations then becomes the unfinished business of slavery, colonialism, and apartheid. So that was the beginning of my research and my inquiry into the space of reparations. 2 years later, we had the global uprising around the murder of George Floyd, and these conversations around reparations began to spark up again. And at the time, I was pregnant, and so I was really having a lot of internal tension around not just like what was happening in the world, but what role was I going to play both as a scholar at the time and professionally as a funder, where philanthropy was newly interested in having this conversation around repair and racial justice. So I found myself leaning into both of these spaces to understand history and movement building in a way that became autobiographical, because it was my way of understanding myself and the world that I was living in. So within the past 6 years at Open Society, I built out our first reparations portfolio and managed the strategic partnerships and investments across Africa, Europe, the Caribbean, and the Americas. And that was really the beginning of creating this groundswell that we now see, because quite frankly, when the reparations work began for me, there wasn't a lot of conversation about it. It was not the hot topic. And there were people who were still debating whether we should say the word reparations because it was so unpopular and unstrategic if you wanted to get things done. But, you know, looking back, here we are at a time where everybody is saying reparations, and it's understood that this is the language of the movement. And I'm hoping that as it continues to become a mobilizing issue in political context, that it becomes the language of diplomacy. As it relates to the UN resolution that was adopted recently on March 25th, I served as an advisor to the government of Ghana and assembled a team of technical experts who advised the negotiating team through 5 rounds of intense negotiations. My colleague Ruth, she can tell you a lot about some of the legal nuance, because she was a key part of that team and really helped us to think through a lot of the legal questions, given Palu's incredible leadership on the continent, but also on this topic. Our team was made up of lawyers, historians, UN experts, and just advocates across Africa, the Caribbean, and the Americas. Now, to answer your question as to what does the adoption mean, I think it means a lot of things. But one of the biggest things that I want to highlight is that it shows us what is possible when Africans and people of African descent stand together. Like that was really the first hurdle to see whether we as a people could unify ourselves around something, given that our history has been such that we've been divided and unable to really come together in a way that we move as a political force. And so when we see this moment of unification, we actually found that the world is also unifying around us. For me, that was powerful because seeing the process from the beginning to the end, I had major doubts about who was going to stand with us. And I was quite overwhelmed to see the level of support that we had. And so for me, yes, it's a important milestone in the movement, not just for unifying Africans and people of African descent, despite the differences and some of the tensions that exist within our diaspora and community, but then also having our brothers and sisters from different regions to stand with us on that. I think it's also an important moment to clarify the historical record. That was critical because if you're familiar with Durban and you know we're in the 25th anniversary of the Durban Declaration, you might recall that the Durban language talks about slavery as something that should have been considered a crime, as if it was not a crime at the time. And so I hope that my colleague Ruth can talk more about this because this was a really intense part of the debate. That as far as colonial powers are concerned, the chattel enslavement of Africans was legal at the time, and this resolution asserts that it was always a crime. It was not legal at the time, and that is such an important clarifying point on our history because it teaches us our history so that we are not repeating the distortion and the dilution that it was allowed and that African people accepted this, that there was no resistance, that there was African kings who were just okay with the violent suppression of Black people and the trafficking and chattel enslavement of Africans. So I think that is something that was a really important turning point in this conversation. And the last thing I'll say, because I really do want us to have a conversation about the resolution, is that the title is probably one of the most important things about the resolution because, you know, there was debate around the word gravest. Like, why are you guys calling it the gravest crime against humanity? Are you saying that this is the worst thing that happened to any people or that Black people suffered more? And we have to continue to clarify wherever we are talking about this resolution is that this gravest crime is speaking to the gravity and the world-breaking scale of the crime itself, not a hierarchy of oppression. So it's not a question of who suffered the most, but how did this system define a breaking point for the world at that time? And on that basis, we argue that chattel enslavement of Africans was not just an isolated tragedy that impacted African people, but a structuring force of a new world order that broke the world for all of mankind. So I think recognizing that the trafficking and chattel enslavement of Africans became this structuring force that would then transcend time and geographies is what made this particular moment in history the gravest crime against humanity. So I'll stop there because I could talk all day about this resolution and the process, but I think we can appreciate the different perspectives and more of the conversation that my colleague Ruth can talk more about. Thank you.
To end at 8:30, but we're going to go over for 10, 15 minutes more because we want to hear from our two colleagues and then also from you all, and also we need to eat all that food that we have outside. So thank you so much, Jasmine, for putting that on the table. And with that, I'd like to give the word to Ruth. And Ruth, again, tell us a bit about your journey, but then we'd love to hear more about this resolution and what were some of the key, I guess, political and legal challenges that you faced in getting it adopted.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. And yeah, thanks Jasmine, and it's good to see all the familiar faces. Kim, shout out. We've been working with Kim, entirely through 2025. Very keen and getting some of the key policy progression that the AU did. We did some of that work together. So it's always great to see familiar faces for yourself as well in this space. So my name is Ruth. I work for an organization called the Pan-African Lawyers Union, which is a union of lawyers and bar associations in Africa, and a little bit the diaspora, some of the diaspora lawyers as well. So our secretariat is based in Arusha, Tanzania. So in addition to doing, development of the legal profession, responding to lawyers in danger, we do have some key thematic portfolios on respective issues of concern on the continent, including, of course, reparations, restitution, climate justice, economic governance, you name it. And we work very closely with the African Union on policy development, as well as governments and state parties to the AU system. So, part is out of the way now myself. So, I'm sure you guys have heard about the Benin bronzes at some point. So, I'm a descendant of the royal family of the Benin Kingdom. And so, I grew up listening to my grandfather, my aunts, my father telling me about the history, the expedition in 1997, I think it was, and the exile and subsequent persecution of the Oba, which is our king at the time, who is a direct relative of mine. And of course, the one thing that my grandfather kept drumming into me and my siblings and my cousins was that it is the duty of a Benin person to see those bronzes at least once in their lifetime. Wow. And because the bronzes is not just art, it's the physical embodiment of our ancestors. And you should lay your eyes on it at least once. Now, for me, growing up in Benin City and in Lagos, Nigeria, there was no way for my grandfather hadn't seen the bronzes, and he passed away without having seen the bronzes. And so, going to see those bronzes would require for me to get a British visa, which is something I completely refuse to do. So far, so good. Get a visa and pay a significant amount of money, pay a museum fees to access, those bronzes. And so I just remember growing up, even as a kid in Nigeria, thinking this is incredibly unfair. Right, that we were culturally and spiritually amputated, from our heritage in this manner. And so I then went on. So I'm a lawyer. I don't like saying I'm a lawyer, but I have 2 law degrees, and I got into international law, particularly international criminal law and transitional justice mechanisms. I worked at the UN mechanisms for the former Yugoslavia. And for Rwanda, doing particular investigation, evidence gathering, and fugitive tracking. And so I remember, in these processes, just thinking, okay, so when is it going to be our turn? When is it going to be my turn, right? And so that career journey kind of saw itself through, and then I joined the Pan-African Lawyers Union, and particularly what was attractive. And I remember going for the interview, and they said, well, we have this program on restitution, it's a portfolio we're trying to start. And I said, oh my God, yes, please, because this is something I've been meaning to get involved in. And so that's how I got involved, started restitution, did some work on that. We just published 3 reports on litigation strategies for restitution of cultural heritage. It goes into a bit of the legal dimensions of going to court in respective European countries, as well as general common law on the subject. So we've just published that. So we did that. And then, of course, 2025 around is the theme of the year. And, at part of it, like, well, restitution, reparations, you run with it. And so pretty much it's at part, it's something that we pretty much started from scratch, because at the time that, just before 2025 came about, and before the AU summit, particularly in Addis, in February, it was more so a lot of ideas and, conversations that were happening in CSO spaces. Nothing, there was no momentum. And I think it was Prof just now that was saying that Africa is kind of late to the conversation, which is true. I entirely agree with that. And I remember in some of the conceptual documents I was doing, I said, we really have to learn from our cousins in the diaspora, because they've been on this journey much longer than we have been. And so we kind of evolved, and then of course, moving on very quickly. So a bunch of work that I can go into more specific details about, but then of course, January rolls around, and myself and my colleague, Donald Dare, who we work together at Palu, we got invited to join the technical expert committee supporting the government of Ghana on the resolution. And like Jasmine said, it was a cocktail of different backgrounds. And so with Dawn and myself being the only lawyers, particularly in the team. And so there was a lot of, and as Jasmine said, a lot of requests to come up. And I don't like using the word come up because I don't think in any way that what we were doing in terms of developing arguments for why specific language had to remain in the resolution was anything normal. In fact, the argument we're trying to make is that all of this stuff already existed under international law in the first place. And so, now we'll get to specific things, and Jasmine already kind of went into some of the stuff when it comes to racialized chattel enslavement, or even the term bravest, as well as other kind of substantive arguments and cuts across the international resolution on, retroactive application of law, as well as jus cogens norms, and saying this is not part of customary international, et cetera, et cetera. And so, so I'm not going to necessarily repeat what Jasmine had mentioned, but I definitely remember the term racialized chattel enslavement quite contentious. Because, well, you want to talk about slavery, and slavery already exists under international law, and there's abundant, instruments at the international level that talks about slavery. So why are you trying to redo what's already been done? And one of the arguments we had to make, and Jasmine already explained this a bit, is that Durban had limitations, for instance. And it was very important to say, yes, slavery has happened, it's been happening, it's been condemned on the international law in this kind of moral articulation of the matter. But what happened to Africans and people of African descent was a very specific brand of enslavement. And it was the degradation of a human being to the status of something else, in this instance, chattel or property. There is no way in recorded history where this had ever been done. Even in the terms and in the brands of slavery that existed before the 1400s, there was always a pathway out of it. You were still a human being, you were an indentured servant, you were this and you were that, you owed the debt and then you had to pay off the debt. You've done something wrong, and then as punishment, you were enslaved, but you were not property. You were still a human being. So the intentional social and legal engineering that led to the possibility of degrading a human being to the status of property is something that was uniquely applied to African people. And that's why the title of the resolution doesn't say declaration of, classified slavery. No, it says racialized chattel enslavement. It's a very specific brand of enslavement. And so when you start zooming in and looking into the types of atrocities that occurred in the 400 window time period where it happened, then you can start, getting to some of the things that Jasmine was saying that this is a very world-breaking, world-defying tectonic shift in the global world order that altered everything, including how we conceived and conceptualized human beings. So when you were able to successfully degrade a human being to the status of property, you could degrade them to anything else, right? That's what happened in Rwanda, where people were degraded to the status of cockroaches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this was very unfortunate precedent that was set. So that was why we really intended on keeping that language in. Again, Jasmine already kind of mentioned this, the word bravest, and the legal argument there is that it's not a hierarchical, the bravest in this instance is not a hierarchical term, it's a descriptive term. We're simply just saying the truth, right? Because it's an absolute crime that has no comparison whatsoever. It's the only brand that has existed in all of history that has these deep roots, deep impact in today's world, and the way in which it was applied was so unique that nothing else has ever showed up like that, and definitely not for 400 years. And so it is simply just a description, and it is important to describe this in that way because there's specific, things can arise from that when it comes to identifying victims and what type of justice mechanisms are available to them. Now, move on to use Cogens norm, which I found, to be very, very, very funny, that at the time that this happened, it was not a crime under international law, or that there is no consensus that this was a crime under international law, which, I kept saying, that's a lie. Like, it's, what do you mean? You're making me tell you that you're a liar. International law is very clear. starting from whatever thing we can read into international law, distill from international law at the time in the 1400s. The global world order at the time was Christendom. And within Christendom, the laws were made by the Pope through the papal bulls, and states relied on these laws in their foreign policy and how they went into the new world to conquer and do etc. etc. So from the papal bulls, you could see, well, on international, so you have the jus cogens, and then you have the state practice, or opinion juris and state practice. So the opinion, the actual law that was made or that was said was the papal bulls, and then corresponding state practice in the ways in which states or kingdoms, European kingdoms at the time, effected it, gave you the requisite state practice. And even by today's standard, you can distill customary international law in its application at the time. So customary international law, jus cogens, that always existed. And that's the argument we're trying to make. The other thing that we're also trying to say is that you cannot say, oh, they're now the retroactive application of the law, that, oh, this wasn't a crime at the time. That's not true, because every single record of history records African people, what we are calling African abolitionist traditions, rebelled against the wrongness of this. Even subsequent popes within Christendom came forward and said, this thing is wrong. So the fact that like people at the time, perpetrators, engineered an entire legal and social order to justify the degradation of a human being to the status of property, despite everyone else who was involved telling them that this was wrong, doesn't mean that that crime did not exist. In fact, what we're calling within the resolution, the testimony of action, that you can see across the continent, you know, from even kingdoms that were conquered much later, some of the articulation of why those kingdoms were to be conquered was because those kingdoms were resisting and controlling the trade of people. And so this very intention of, okay, no, we need to take out the people who are stopping us from enslaving African people and even African people in plantations in the Americas, all of this rebellion, there was never a time when that did not sustain. You had the king of Congo at the time writing letters as early as the 14th century to Leopold in Belgium to say, you need to stop taking my people and enslaving them because this is wrong. And so the wrongness of the crime has never been in doubt.
Right.
What has been delayed is the recognition that this was a crime. And it is unfortunate that today, in 2026, in March, we're still having to explain this to people. But that notwithstanding, where does that leave us at this time? And not to duplicate, Jasmine's presentation, but I think the technical committee in advising the government, we actually had to reach a point where we had to say, hey, listen, what are we telling the government? Because there was so much pressure to let go of certain language within the resolution. And I do remember as a lawyer being like, okay, this is looking long. This is a long thing. So what we need to do, maybe we need more time, because I do believe we have very strong arguments. We have our truth that we can tell, but we need more time to flip states. And, there were also groups of experts who were saying, no, we cannot let go of any kind of language whatsoever. We proceed, and if we fail, we fail. And that's okay, because again, testimony of action, right? Our ancestors who were rebelling against enslavement didn't always succeed at the time, but the testimony of action, we're reading into that today, centuries later. And so, yes, let's rebel. And if we fail, we fail, and that's totally fine. And I mean, we proceeded. And again, always, I think Ghana would not have succeeded, in this endeavor without partnership, key partnerships like with CARICOM, with CELAC, with the AU, of course, and other allied states that, came on board and voted for this resolution to go through. And so I think what this underscores for us is that obviously this was a very political resolution, but the implications of that, legally, even in terms of the strategies, legal strategies that are now available to us, even within the law, because again, articulation opens you up to certain legal options that this has now done. So I think I will end there, and yeah, I'll end there. Thanks.
My sister. That powerful story of how Black women are changing international law, actually. Wow, thank you. Continue that conversation about, where we go next with that, with the resolution. So,
So let's just have one quick question.
Can we'll just have Sister Mariama.
Speaker,
Who,
sorry.
yes, who was in a different space, but she's going to come and share some very, very, very quick thoughts.
Quick thought. Because
very quick,
yeah,
just
and
a couple of
very
minutes
quick.
because what
because I really I
Yeah.
have a hard time transitioning because I
Right.
think this
Okay.
is such a powerful
Yeah.
discussion.
Okay,
I
well,
think we need to film this discussion, this
It's-
kind of discussion
it's
in
big,
synchrony,
yes.
because there's so much.
yes, yes,
And we need to go through it systematically
We do.
to understand, because there's so
We
much
do.
myth and mysticism
Mhm.
about this topic and about African role and the role of African people and ourselves.
yeah.
So, so it's really hard for me. to
Well,
come in.
yeah, and I mean, we were going to end with this conversation
Yeah.
actually, but.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But no, no, no.
I double booked myself.
But Mariama is coming to bring to this conversation as well the role and the idea of the legacies of colonialism and enslavement in the environmental crisis.
Yeah. That's a whole
That's a whole
other-
But please just give us a few.
Just a few things.
A
I
few
just
quick
want to,
points.
in fact, I wrote them down.
Right,
So I
okay.
won't ramble, because I can ramble. So, hello.
So just
So,
5 minutes.
my name is Mariama Williams. I am with the Global Afro-Descendant Climate Justice Collaborative. It's a collaborative that's been set up through the auspices of the Chisholm Legacy Project in the US and Pan-African Climate Justice Group, which has offices all over Africa. And we've been agitating and pushing forward to have the voice and representation of Afro-descendant within the UNFCCC, the climate negotiation, both in terms of the text, but also formally having a constituency group of Afro-descendant to advocate for points of view, among other things. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the relationship between the fight against environmental crisis and climate justice and reparations. Right? And I'm just gonna throw out some stuff because there's no time to really develop. It's a whole other discussion. But I want to say that the environmental crisis is not separate from the history, right? It is produced by the same systems: slavery, colonialism, extractivism, and racialized capitalism. And that the wealth of the global north is built on that. It's built on the enslavement of labor, resource extraction from Africa, and the discrimination and discriminatory processes that still dispossess Africans and Afro-descendants in the Caribbean, Latin America, Africa, Asia, wherever we are today. So they're not distinctly different process. So we have Afro-descendants in territories that are exposed to climate impact and who have least resources to respond to it. For me, at some level, climate change is the ecological expression of historical injustice. Some people say climate change really shows the inequities of colonialism. And that for the first time as you're saying about what's going on in terms of international law, in climate negotiation, in climate science and climate policy, for the first time after 30 years of climate science, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change actually in its last report said that colonialism is a driver of climate change. 30 freaking years. And that is a very minor sentence. It's something we need to push and unpack, that the science and the economics of climate change recognize we're colonialism. They didn't get to slavery, it's colonialism. But slavery, we know, is a very part of that. So climate injustice, I think, is an unfinished history for many of us, all of us, right? We went from plantation economy to extractive economy, enslavement to labor exploitation, and colonial land use, which created environmental degradation across Latin America and the Caribbean. So for us, loss is not new. It's layered across generations, right? And so we need to expand reparation beyond compensation to include ecological repair, restoration of land and livelihood. I heard the sister talked about that, and rebuilding of the care systems and common systems that existed in many African traditions and that we still see among Afro-descendants in the Caribbean and in Latin America. And so for many part, in terms of what we argue in climate change, we're talking about loss and damage, recognizing non-economic losses such as culture, such as identity, such as our spiritual connection to nature and the land, and all of the various dimensions. So it's a very layered thing. And so specifically in climate, we talk about climate finance and climate injustice, because we recognize that the bigger picture is reparation, and the bigger harm comes from colonialism and enslavement. And that also contributed significantly to the climate change and to climate injustice that we're all experiencing. So that access to climate finance and representation in economic and climate negotiation is critical. We also need to return authority over land and land restoration in the various principalities where we live, whether we're living in inner city, in New York City, in North Carolina, Birmingham, or in Colombia and other places. So we need to restore dignity, land, our ownership of land, our respect for land, the naturing of land, and also what are the future possibilities for us in terms of as we move forward in the space of climate reparations and in the space of the broader issue of reparations. And I will leave that there.
Well, I wanted to
Just a
have a,
yes,
yeah.
just a very quick one. Is Anna McCullough in there?
There's a question in the chat.
Is Anna McCullough in the platform?
Hello. Hello.
Speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Buenas tardes, bendiciones a todos. Hello. Estoy en camino a una reunión que tenía que atender, pero he escuchado atentamente cada una de las ponencias. Voy a hablar en español porque es un poco más sencillo. En realidad, solamente quiero hacerles un comentario. Primero que todo, quiero saludarles respetuosamente, agradecer este espacio, saludar a mis compañeros del foro, con mucho respeto también a doña Epsi, y felicitar de verdad al grupo organizador por esta hermosa iniciativa. Únicamente quisiera posicionar un tema de reparación de los que poco hablan, y se trata de la deuda que tenemos las mujeres con las otras mujeres, las niñas y las jóvenes. Quiero tocar este tema porque si ustedes lo ven, las nuevas generaciones hoy tienen mucha más dificultad para comprar un vehículo, para conseguir una casa, porque hoy por hoy el mundo es mucho más difícil, hay muchas más brechas que en el pasado. Ya no es tan fácil adquirir un vehículo, adquirir una casa, poder estudiar, cada vez hay más competencia, y eso ha hecho que las nuevas generaciones se sientan frustradas, y están frustrados porque trabajan muchas horas, porque no son bien remunerados, porque es el ritmo global que tenemos, y porque, aunque parece mentira, hoy más que nunca la aldea global se está convirtiendo en un espacio de suprema competencia y que ha lamentablemente dañado mucha de la calidad de nuestra vida en muchas formas. Entonces, la necesidad que tenemos de apoyar a otras mujeres, la necesidad que tenemos las lideresas de mirar a las que vienen a nuestro lado creciendo, a las niñas, a las jóvenes, de hablarles, de empoderarlas, de apoyarlas, pero hablo de un apoyo verdaderamente real. Y eso quiere decir impulsar políticas de protección para ellas, pero también empezar a pasar la antorcha, escoger personas en nuestras ciudades, en nuestras trincheras, y hablo aquí de un esfuerzo casi unipersonal, porque hacemos muchos esfuerzos colectivos y eso es respetable, es bueno y es necesario, pero también tenemos que hacer esfuerzos unipersonales para escoger lideresas, para empoderarlas, para apoyarlas de todas las formas que se tiene que apoyar una persona, y sacarlas adelante casi como convertirnos nosotros en úteros sociales para dar a luz esos nuevos líderes de los que tanto necesita el mundo y de lo que está sediento este universo. Entonces, sé que quizás es solamente un comentario porque sé que no quiero quitarles mucho tiempo, pero quiero hacerlo porque es necesario. Tenemos que volvernos otra vez en esa calidad que tenemos de dar vida, en úteros sociales. Tenemos que convertirnos nuevamente en nodrizas de empoderamiento, en nodrizas de liderazgo. Y tenemos que de verdad alimentar, proteger, acompañar, impulsar y romper brecha para que ellas caminen en un mundo mucho más equitativo y que también ellas puedan tener la oportunidad de seguir dando a luz nuevos liderazgos. Entonces, he escuchado atentamente cada ponencia y han dicho cosas que me parecen maravillosas y no quería dejar pasar esta oportunidad de referenciar esta reparación que está a la mano de todas nosotras.
Doctora Ana, muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Just two brief questions to the panel. Yeah, actually. So since the declaration at the UN, there's been quite a lot of what I would consider to be apologies about the word gravist. I want to ask the panel, do you think the transatlantic process of enslaving and kidnapping and trafficking Africans was the gravest thing to have befallen humankind?
Mercy, who apologized?
No, I'm talking about just the debates on social media between racists and even people who want reparations, saying should we use the word gravist or should we just have said it's grave so that so that we're inclusive. And I just wondered what the panel thought. And just in case I don't get another chance to come back, as a short question to you. This whole idea, we're really stuck on the paper balls and the fact that slavery was legal. And as lawyers, we've got to pick apart that really and show that it was so absurd. It's a crime against humanity. So the issue about limitations doesn't apply. I wondered, in your work, have you come across a way of showing that it wasn't legal? My two questions.
Great questions. Thank you so much. And
quiero decir tres cosas, cuatro con esta. El panel, sí, quiero decir cuatro cosas.
Más duro por el...
Quiero decir cuatro cosas.
La traducción
sí,
está ahí escuchando.
Quiero decir cuatro cosas. En primer lugar, quiero pedir un aplauso y felicitarla. Esta es una de las actividades más potentes que he visto en el fútbol. Y lástima la hora. Tenemos que luchar para que esto sea un panel central del foro. Eso es uno. Me moviliza mucho lo que dice Ana. Me moviliza mucho. Yo creo que nosotras, que hemos llegado en lucha a una determinada edad, tenemos que unirnos para hacer eso realidad, en cualquier lugar donde estemos. Estamos haciéndolo de manera individual. Yo me siento muy compulsada, ustedes me conocen, siempre haciendo eso que dice Ana, por mi lado, y ella por su lado. Creo que propongo un esfuerzo acá para que todas vamos a identificar quiénes somos las mayores. Casi estoy en mis 70, así que hay que incluirme. En tercer lugar, las invito a hacer de esto un texto. Les propongo, hace tiempo quiero hacer esto, les propongo desde Calzo, coordinar este esfuerzo, Calzo Puig, y hacer de esto un texto. Y después ir a las comunidades, todo se queda aquí. La gente abajo no sabe qué estamos haciendo. Eso. Y ya la cuarta cosa que iba a decir es que no nos puede pasar lo de Burma. Preparamos Burma y dos artículos nada más hablan de esta perspectiva de género. Y creo que hay que incorporar más la crítica a género en el pensamiento afrofeminista, tal como la concibió Sueli. Luchar, hay que desmontar el concepto de género, que es más fácil para mantener la desigualdad. Hay que reconstruirlo en el sentido de Sueli, para que el feminismo blanco tradicional tenga más en cuenta nuestras demandas y para que el movimiento afro tenga más en cuenta las demandas. Es una de las cosas, casa afuera, casa adentro. Yo quería decir eso porque creo que nos falta la crítica en ese sentido. Y es lo que me llevo de este panel. Es poner una agenda en clave afrofeminista. Nuestra agenda es otra, mujeres. Nuestra agenda es esta. Maternamos diferente. Nuestra agenda es otra. Vamos a hacerla ver. Todavía no se ve nuestra agenda afrofeminista. Muchas gracias a estas mujeres porque es verdad que aprendimos mucho. Me atraparon y he estado hasta el final. No sé cómo voy a llegar a Francia, pero gracias.
Madam Moderator, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I first I want to thank the member of the audience that just made her intervention, but I would like to address the question of the previous audience member. I'm sorry, Auntie, that I don't know your name, but I heard your question as a two-part question, and I know that typically it is addressed to the legal minds and professionals in the room. I think it's important that when we think about the Papa Bulls and other forms of governance, that we begin as culture workers to look at the forms of governance that predate even that. When I think about the Congo and I look at the Mbangi and that form of governance, when I even go back as far as the Nile Valley civilizations and I think about Ma'at, I want us to take ownership of our own mindset around what is ethical, what is right, the sense of right and wrong, and how that has shown up in institutions that govern our communities and shape the world's understanding of what is right and what is wrong, and morality, because we have cooperative forms of governance, of conflict transformation, and mutual aid. And in the next iteration of the world that we're building now, it's important for us to begin to draw from those schools of thought. It doesn't mean that we won't seek accountability in the world as it is currently structured, but moving from justice to joy means we go back into the worldview of the original peoples, the first human beings that created what it is that we call civilization, and use that as our compass and our touchstone. And so, for the sake of your question, I know it was addressed to the legal minds in the room, but as a culture worker, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the very foundational law of Ma'at, M-A-A-T, out of the Nile Valley civilizations, as well as the Mbangi out of the Congo. Thank you, and I'll pass the mic.
To go back before what existed before the Papal Bull. So that is an absolutely brilliant, and that system of governance, that's an absolutely brilliant intervention to that question.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. As we round up, I think Ruth, you wanted to respond as well to that question, and then I think those will be the last.
Yeah.
So words, unless anyone has.
So the two questions on whether it is grievous and taking into account what I already said earlier, that we're not using, or the goal here is not to use the word grievous as a hierarchical thing, but rather descriptive thing. And just to say that we are currently finalizing, shame Jasmine is no longer here, but we're currently finalizing an explanatory document that goes paragraph by paragraph into some of the rationale that went behind the language. And we think that's very important, particularly because what you're talking about, there's a lot of conversation in the public domain, even amongst legal spaces.
A bit slow with the translator.
Lots of conversation in the public domain, even amongst legal spaces, of what this term grievous mean. And so to really get the narrative and what it is that we were thinking in our rationale out there, that if you take into account the timeline of endurance, you take into account the geographic impact, including the fact that nearly 50 countries in today's global order are directly affected by it. So that scale of it, if you take into account the innovation that went into the engineering, the social and the legal engineering of it, and even the medical, the innovation and the intentionality behind some of the things that happened in that period of endurance, if you take into account the impact on the collective social psychology, including legacies of racism, in today's world, if you take into account the economic impact and the empires and multi-billion-dollar fortunes that were built up on this together, right? it's a descriptive thing. And just put into context a little bit, some of the other words that we played around you before we started to talk graveness was absolute. Because the thing we're trying to convey here is that this is unparalleled. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, which is why we shouldn't be ashamed even of
course.
the hierarchy of it.
Exactly.
I know you guys are diplomats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say something perhaps not diplomatic. I was worried about it.
Yeah.
I was worried about it from the perspective of attempting to get it passed.
Right.
So I really like what you said, Ruth, about it being about having it on record. Having it on record that it happened, and it was like, well, you know, this is the first thing they're going to use. I think it was Jasmine that was very clear when she said, look, all of them that don't want to vote for it are going to use something.
Yeah.
Why do we always
water
have
it
to
down to suit them?
Right.
It's never going to be. And actually, there was a very good explanation in terms of what the graveness is. But what I am the most concerned about at the moment is a lot of the other arguments that are now coming out. Africans selling Africans. The Arab slave trade was the worst, and it was longer. And why are we not talking about that? And one thing I would say is, whenever you're campaigning for one thing, because I could say, oh, I want to save the dolphins. No one asked me, what about the donkeys?
Yeah.
Whenever it comes to peoples of African descent, we ask for something. The what about and now a lot of us are engaged. You say, oh, but we have to address this debate. And no one's saying we shouldn't address this debate at all. But if we have put this forward, we have every single right to make an argument on this basis without everybody asking us, what about this, and what about that, and what about that? Because there's no denying that this is a crime. So this whole distraction is really problematic.
And I don't want to lose the opportunity to respond to the second, because I think it's very important in terms of how, as lawyers, for instance, because we are very pragmatic and very practical, we can move this thing forward. And I know this might be a quotation with the historians because they want to talk about the past, and lawyers are like, no, let's talk about how to change exactly the solution. And I think what then needs to be done, because what this process of the resolution taught us is that, again, like I was saying, I don't like using the word we created something because it's already existed. So, but what we did identify is that there is a gap in articulating this point. So I think beyond myself and a few other people, not many lawyers can tell you exactly what I just articulated as to why this resolution is, you know, grounded in international law. And so that gap needs to kind of, so we need to pull from different threads. So we need to pull from the pre-paper, the pre-13th and 14th century era. So that's why we need the historians. We need to pull from the testimonies of action and the different engineering that African people did at the time to push back against this thing. And we need to even build on some of the allyship that came from the global north at the time in abolition, right? And we need to pull from all these threads and articulate international law the way we are seeing it, and then get that information out there. So there's research that needs to be done. There's a lot of legal infrastructure that needs to be built together, right? Not just on the continent, also in the diaspora, and even in the global north as well. And so this is something that we need to do, and we need to engineer very intentionally in academic spaces, in courts, you know, even intergovernmental, international courts, you know, there's a proposal to go to the ICJ, for instance, a proposal to go to the African Court, for instance. So all of these legal avenues need to be exploited, to use that word, to get where it is that we need to, until these arguments are mainstream and it's being taught in law schools 100 years from now.
Absolutely.
Just a very quick comment. Just in international law, none of the countries such as the US, Israel in particular, Argentina, ever have a problem with it. The definition of genocide, which is widespread and sustained, etc., etc. So you can't get anything more widespread and more sustained than that. So therefore, if you were doing it and there was a genocide test, rape was a crime against humanity. Well, you know, crimes against humanity there. The international precedent was set at Nuremberg. Clearly. So they themselves had ownership. It's just they don't like applying it when it happens in Gaza. We're not sure. So it's, I agree with the comments that have been made. I want to repeat this. It's a selective amnesia. And so the selective amnesia means when it's their responsibility, of course they don't want to accept it. But I think it's a fantastic achievement. And in a sense, we just move forward.
Exactly.
We actually don't need to justify what we've done. We've dug the hole, let them fill it. But meantime, move on, because there's lots more resultant issues that we still have to face. So I wouldn't expend too much time on looking back, but let them talk to themselves.
Yeah.
We go on and do what we have to do, so it's their solution. So I think sometimes they will, as a diversion, spend your time and your energy over here, where actually we just need to go
Done
ahead.
it, yeah.
Done it.
But I think you want to move forward, but you also have to deal with our own people. Because we need to move
Together.
So we need that explanatory, we need that. We need also.
There's a lot of people of African descent who say we should forget the past.
I know that too.
Yeah. Okay. We need to move together, but we need to close together.
Sí, no, muy breve. Yo pienso que tiene mucha trascendencia la actividad esta actividad paralela. Uno, porque ahorita ya se ha reconocido lo de la trata y la esclavitud, pero no fue lo mismo para hombres que para mujeres. Y eso hay que hacerlo notar, ¿sí? Entonces, todo este tiempo ha sido una historia de múltiples violaciones hacia las mujeres, ¿sí? Y yo creo que ahí es otra reparación, ¿no? Entonces, yo creo que desde aquí se debe impulsar, no sé, ahorita una declaratoria, tal vez que salga de esta actividad paralela, ¿sí? Para poder hacer énfasis en la trascendencia que tiene abordar la perspectiva de las mujeres.
Muchas gracias.
Solo eso.
Gracias.
Of this side event to the permanent forum, of course, to maybe they can include in the conclusion of the session, so that's important. So I just want to say that this is our third discussion about Black women in reparation. We have two first, one with Dalhousie University, and we start this conversation and we want to continue doing. So thank you, Chevy. I think Chevy is online too. So first, thanks to Dalhousie, because it's like we decide to put this discussion since the Black women experience and work. Vuelvo a español y queremos agradecerles, por supuesto, desde AMOAFRO, desde IPTP, IFE Cultural Library, Dalhousie University, and Teaching Arts Institute. Esto fue un esfuerzo muy importante, muy grande, pero sabemos que va a quedar sonando en todas las personas que estuvieron en el foro, que están en el foro y pues que lograron venir aquí. Gracias a ustedes por aguantarse hasta esta hora. Todavía hay comida que no lo lograron y si ya comieron, repetir. Gracias a todas las personas que están virtual. Gracias a nuestras panelistas, por supuesto. Bel, Bárbara, que ya se fue. Kim, Mariama, Keisha, Ruth, and Jasmine, thank you so much. And we will continue. Era un trabajo maratónico y de verdad vamos a continuar esto, vamos a seguir y sabemos que vamos a unir muchas más mujeres trabajando en reparaciones desde las diferentes agendas. Así que de verdad gracias a mi querida amiga Esther, hermana, también por este trabajo maratónico y bueno, de corazón y con mucho cariño vamos a continuar. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. From Auntie Rosa, who is from the Latin American Studies Council, CLACSO, to put this into a book. So sisters that took part in this, I will be reaching out so we can think about how to keep uplifting the voice of Black women in this process. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Safe return to your home. Thank you, everyone online. And please do eat more food because we have.
Is.
Ah, okay.